Hello and welcome everybody to our abs and core class. Thank you guys for stopping in today. I'm your health fitness specialist, Quinn, instructing you this afternoon. All right, so we're going to stay with the same sort of structure that we usually go through with our warm-up. Got a couple of different circuits, moving through different areas of exercise. We're going to be working on our back for the first circuit and then flipping over, doing some prone facing work, getting into our shoulder and our hips, all throughout both circuits, and as well as, of course, our abs and core. After that, we're going to have a little bit of a cool down, stretching out, winding down, a little bit of some breathing, and get things finished up here. All right, so hopping right into it, we're going to get into some side bends. You can do these standing up. For the sake of my space here, I'm going to be on my knees. But so what we're going to do is just we're going to extend the hands up above and lean to one side, pulling into the shoulder and the rib cage, extending all along, really stretching into the side of our body here. Going to the other side. Keeping that chest nice and proud. And again, to the other side. And good. All right. Next up, we're going to get into our adductor quad rocks. Okay. So we're going to into our hands and knees here. We're going to extend one leg out to the side, and we're just going to rock back and forth, getting into the groin. Inner thigh there, really working into the hips, getting things a little warmed up. And switching sides. And then moving in to our cat-cow. Getting into our hands and knees, about shoulder width apart. And we're just going to drop the belly button down to the mat and pull the spine up towards the ceiling. Tucking our hips underneath, curling our head back. Getting our core all working together. Moving all as one through the hips and the shoulders. And done. Good. All right. For our first circuit here, we're going to flip over onto our back, laying flat. We're going to do our supine single leg knee tucks. So feet are going to come out extended. Feet are extended out. And we're going to bring both heels up off the floor. You can place your hands underneath your hips here for a little bit more leverage. And you're going to bring one knee up at a time, get into that 90-degree and extending back out. You really want to focus on pulling that spine down into the floor, keeping it nice and flat. That way you really engage your lower abdominal muscles. Starting to wake things up there. And working into the hip flexors as well. Good, keep it up. This is some good work for the hips and the lower back, just building some real good foundational strength here. Couple more. And done. Good. Next up, we've got our glute bridge holds. So getting our feet flat on the ground, hands come out to the sides of the hips. We're going to drive our hips straight up into the air, squeezing at the top, holding, taking a nice long hold, creating that straight line from the hips through, from the shoulders through the hips, through the knees, and pressing all the way down through the heels. Slowly dropping back down, tapping the floor and coming straight back up. Getting a nice slow pace. You want to hold for about 10 seconds up at the top. Last one. And drop. Nice job. All right. Next up, we've got our bicycle crunches. So extending the legs out. We're gonna actually, let's switch it up. We're gonna actually do some dead bugs. Staying in the realm of functionality and hip strength. We're gonna bring both knees up, bringing those feet to 90 degrees. Hands come on top of the knees, and we're gonna extend opposite leg out and return back, pulling that spine down to the ground. And coming right back up, keeping that spine locked to the floor, giving a slight tap, but not dropping the foot, and coming back up. Bringing that knee back to hand. Nice, even pace, really controlling the movement here. A few more. And rest. Good. Next up, we're going to do our leg raises. All right. So bringing those hands underneath the hips, extending the feet out, getting the feet up off the ground, and big sweep up and lowering down. Nice, even pace. Really working into those lower hip muscles here. Feeling it in those abdominals, right in the pelvis. Let's go, keep it up. A few more. And rest. Very good. Next up, we have our flutter kicks. So, gonna extend those feet back out, getting the heels up off the floor, and kick up, straight up and down. Sorry, kicking straight up and down, nice and fast. You can get those hands underneath the hips for a little bit more leverage. Staying with quick, fast kicks. And side to side. Crisscrossing the toes. up on top of each other. Few more seconds, keep it up. And rest. Good. All right, finishing that up. 25% done here. We're gonna go back up to the top with our single leg knee tucks. So getting those hands underneath the hips, extending the legs out. We're gonna bring one knee up at a time and slowly extending back out. Getting some really good hip work here. Try and drive that knee straight up towards the chest, as high as it'll go, pulling that spine down towards the ground. Keep it up, good work. Couple more. And rest. Good. Next up, we've got our glute bridge holds. Okay, so remember we're doing about 10 seconds up at the top, getting our ankles pretty scooched in towards our heels, so they're directly below the knees. And we're driving the hips up, creating that nice flat line from the shoulders through the hips to the knees, all the way through the heels, driving up towards the ceiling. Staying up for about 10 seconds, then slowly dropping down, tapping the ground, and coming straight back up. Finding that nice, balanced, even pace as we drop back down. Let's get 2 more in here, about 20 more seconds. Trying to have even drive through both heels as we hold those hips up, making sure we're using both sides of our glutes here. Very good. All right, next up we've got our dead bugs. So bringing both knees up, getting those feet at 90, hands on the knees, and we're extending opposite leg out with our hands, working on some opposite side stability and control, using our brains a little bit, thinking about how we stabilize from side to side. A few more, keep going. Try and keep those toes up. And finish. Nice job. Next up, we're going into our leg raises. So getting those hands underneath the hips, legs extending straight out, getting those heels up off the ground and bringing the feet up, creating a nice big sweeping arc. as you bring the toes up and slowly lower them back down. Keeping that spine pulled to the floor. And rest. Nice job. Next up, we've got our flutter kicks. All right, so extending our feet out. We're bringing those heels up off the floor, hands underneath the hips, and kicking straight up and down. Nice and fast. Quick kicks. Keeping that spine pulled to the floor. Short, quick, and crisscrossing side to side. Few more. And finished. Good. 50% of the way through. Finish with that first circuit. Next up, we're going into our bird dogs. Okay, so we're going to flip over onto our backs here. And we're going to get our hands right underneath our shoulder and our knees directly below the hips. So we're nice, flat like a tabletop. One hand and one leg, opposite sides, extending out and holding. Getting a nice stable hold from side to side. Again, working that opposite side stabilization. Holding, staying in that hold position. And switching sides. Extending out. Staying nice and stable and coming back down. Good. Next up, we have our Supermans. So we're going to lay down onto our stomach, getting our hands out in front of us. We're going to raise hands and feet up, pulling those shoulders back down towards the hips, eyes forward, chin up, and lowering down. Popping up for 5 seconds. And lowering down. Making sure you're keeping those shoulders away from the ears, pulling them down towards the hips. Let's get a few more in here. Last one, and down. Good. Next up, we're going to do our prone overhead press. So we're going to have our hands down by our shoulders, still laying down on our stomach and chest. What we're going to do is the elbows are going to start pointed down towards the hips, Hands right by the shoulder, the armpit. And we're gonna pick the hands up, pinching the shoulder blades together, pulling them away from the ear. And while we're keeping that same position, we're gonna extend the hands up, overhead, and come back down. Lower down and pop right back up. Extending out overhead, coming back and lowering the body down. Keeping those shoulders pulled away from the ears. One more. And down. Good. Next up, we've got our plank. So we're going to get our elbows down directly below the shoulder, and we're going to sit into our plank here, popping up for about 45 seconds. Okay, so driving the ground away, we're popping up onto the toe, getting the hips up, keeping the shoulders and hips nice and level with each other, keeping that back flat, just like a dinner table. Pressing the ground away through the shoulder. Holding nice and steady. Couple more seconds, guys. Nice job. And lowering down. Good. Going back to our bird dogs. We're going to get up onto our hands and knees. Extending one arm, one leg out. Getting a nice long hold. Again, using that cross body stabilization. Holding nice and strong, keeping that line from the toes all the way to the fingertips. Nice and flat through the back. Sucking that belly button up to spine. And lowering down, switching sides. And lowering down, finishing that out. Next up, we've got our Superman. So getting onto our stomach, hands coming out in front of us. We're gonna bring the hands up, hold for about 5 seconds, pulling the shoulder blades down towards the hips, away from the ears, and lowering, coming up. Making sure we're focusing on our breathing as well. Let's get a couple more. And down. Very good. Next up, we have our prone overhead press. So getting our elbows pointed down towards our hips, shoulders pulled back, hands by the armpits. We're going to pick the hands up, extend out overhead, and come back down. Let's get a couple more. Trying to keep those hands nice and flat as you extend up and out. Last one. And done. Good. Next up, we have our plank. 45 seconds. Getting our elbows underneath the shoulder and popping the hips up. Holding. Getting nice and level through the hips. Keeping our shoulders flat through the back. Pressing the ground away with the elbows. Sucking the belly button up to spine. A few more seconds here. And drop. Nice job, everybody. We're going to finish up our circuits. We're going to go into a bit of a stretch and cool down here. First one we're going to do is we're going to bring our foot back to our hip, bending the knee into our hurdler stretch. And you're just going to lean back low or high as you can go. Trying to get into that nice comfort zone. You should be stretching and feeling it through the quad and hip flexor here. If you're having trouble or a lot of discomfort going down to the ground, just stay popped up onto your elbows or your hands. Do your working range, not pushing it too far. You should be able to relax into the stretch and not feel, ultimate levels of discomfort. And rolling out to the side, extending that leg back out. Bringing your other leg back towards the hip, bending the knee. Popping up and laying back down. Making sure to take deep breaths in and out, starting to cool the body down. And rolling to the side, extending that leg out. We're going to bring our knees up to the side as we're laying on our side here, bending our extended leg, or just keeping it out straight and bringing one hand up and over into what we call the Pretzel. I believe some people call this the world's greatest stretch as well, but there's different calls and names for it, just like everything in fitness. But you should be feeling this in your lower back, opening up the chest a little bit as well. And rolling the hips over, switching sides, bringing that other knee up, starting with the hand out in and extend it out in front of the chest and bringing it up towards the ceiling, rotating over, dropping that shoulder, trying to keep the knee on the ground instead of having it pick up from the hips. Relaxing nice and deep into the stretch. And extending the leg out. Sitting up, giving a quick forward fold for the lower back. Couple of quick little pumps there. And relaxing out. All right. Thank you guys so much for hopping in today. Hope you enjoyed the class. Don't forget about all of our other classes you can check out on our SharePoint, or just take a look at our YouTube channel. We offer all of them up there for you guys to do at any time. So thank you so much for coming in. Don't forget to check out the rest of this week's classes, and I hope to see you in there.